I was talking to myself. This right here is a rabbit. Everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about what you need to know before you start gardening in the county of Brevard, or mainly in the city of Palm Bay. There are 6 things that you need to know. The first one is your climate, your growing zone. Palm Bay, Brevard County has 2 growing zones. The first is, one of them is Zone 9B and Zone 10A. And what the growing zone tells you, the importance of the growing zone is it tells you what you can plant, when you can plant it, and just an average temperature of that area. The but more importantly, because you're living in Florida and because you're living in Central Florida, it's a little bit more nuanced where the growing zone for your yard could be different from the growing zone of your neighbor. So I would say never watch what's growing in your neighbor yard and take it as a personal failure if you can't grow it in your yard. You and your neighbor could be growing it, trying to grow the exact same thing, while your neighbor is prosperous in growing one vegetables or fruit. You can be not as prosperous as growing that fruit or vegetable because of the growing zone of the climate in your yard. That's just one of the things that you have to deal with as a Floridian gardener. And the other thing is, the most important thing is you need to worry about is your soil. The Florida does not have a soil. Florida does not have soil. Florida has sand. And there are things that grows well in sand, and there's things that does not grow well in sand, where you need to buy soil or build up your sand and turn that sand into soil. So you need to know the proper soil to use based on the application that you're going to use it in. There are several types of soil. You got compost soil, you got sandy loaf soil, you got clay soil. And if you're going to buy soil from the store, I don't know how true it is, but some of them will say in ground soil, or some of them will say raised bed soil. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is the Florida native soil. This is sand. This is just sand. It's like you're at the beach. There's not really much that grows in the sand. You got your loofah that could grow in the sand. You got your beans and peas that grows in sand. But if you're trying to grow vegetables such as these, this is kale and collard greens, you have to get dirt. You got to go buy dirt. That is technically a raised bed. It's an unkept raised bed, but it's a raised bed nonetheless. This right here is a growing bag, and it's similar to a raised bed. It is very similar to a raised bed. Hold on, let me take you to one of my newer raised beds so you can see. Side note, this is a raised bed. This is a raised bed that is made out of bricks. A couple of days ago, I had carrots in here. There was carrots. This had a bunch of carrots in there. This has no carrots in there now. Bugs Bunny came through and It took all my carrots. It's just a barren wasteland now. There's no carrots in there. So this, when someone says, when someone is talking about a raised bed, this is what they're talking about. It's a garden container that is raised up off the floor. It doesn't have a bottom. Some of them do have bottom based on the application that you're going to use it for. Some of them do has a bottom. This one does not have a bottom. This is a 3 foot high raised bed. And you can see that I got a little bit of mulch in the bed, and then I got soil. There's pros and cons of raised beds and grow bags and containers. There's pros and cons for each forms of growing, a method in which you use to grow your fruits and vegetables. And then I have some collard greens right here that is growing directly in the soil. The reason why these look so well is because I built up on the soil. I got mulch. I got different form of mulch. I got sawdust right here where you see the nice color, nice shade. And then I got wood chips right here. And so the wood chips, what they do is they act as a weed barrier where it prevents the weed from growing in the yard. And it keeps the soil moist where you, if you growing in the in the ground, you don't have to water as much because it has moisture retention. And while it's there, it's breaking down and feeding your soil. The worms is gonna like it or love it because it's cooler. It's not drying out as fast. So the worms will come in and had worm casts because worm cast is basically worm poop. So where they leave their poop and it build up your soil. And the benefit of that is, let me show you the things that you plant. When you plant them in a soil that is built up, you get stuff like this. I did not plant this. This is just something that the wind blew and is starting to grow. You get something like this where, look at that. This is a big callaloo. If you try to plant callaloo or amaranth in the native soil, which is this one over here, it will grow and it'll be very barky. So the soil retain moisture, and as you know, callaloo need moisture. So that's one of the reasons why you need to know your soil, know different type of soil, and also if you want to work dark in the ground, you need to build up your soil by adding organic matter to it. After that, another thing that you need to know is your seasons. I'm sure you guys have heard that Florida is not the United States. Florida is a whole country by itself. And it is. It's a whole country, it's a whole climate, it's a whole culture by itself. As I mentioned before, when you read the seed packets, it will say grow these in winter or spring or summer. There's not much things to grow in summer in Florida because summer in Florida is like you're trying to grow in the desert, or you're trying to search or dig for water in the desert. That's when you're trying to grow stuff in the summer. Florida has two growing seasons: winter and fall and spring. Fall is from October to, I would say, February, and then spring is from February to maybe May. And winter, you grow your cold weather crops. You grow your broccoli, collard greens, color. Well, you could grow callaloo. It doesn't grow as much, but you could grow callaloo to some extent. You could grow kale, collard greens, bok choy, lettuce. Depend the type of lettuce. I've learned this year that there's a certain type of lettuce that grows best, especially in my garden. I've grown. I've planted several varieties of lettuces, and some of them went to seed because it wasn't cold enough, while others grows best. And there's there's a lot of cold vegetables that you could grow that do well in the Florida climate in for the winter. And then you have the the spring where you grow the vegetables that are not summer vegetables, but they're heat tolerant, or they don't mind growing in the heat. And those vegetables are like your gourd your gourd plant or your vining plants, like your pumpkin, your I'm sorry, I'm going black. Loofah, stuff like that. What's it? What? Let me see. Let me look around. Let's see what's. Let's take a look to see what's around in my garden that I planted in spring. So right here, you got loofah right here. That is a spring slash summer vegetables. You plant it in the spring, and it grows in the spring and summer. You have that right there. That's Malabar spinach that I've planted in both spring and summer. Malabar spinach is a heat-loving crop, or heat-tolerant crop, not loving crop, heat-tolerant. You got tomatoes that you grow in the spring, and you cannot grow tomato in the summer. Tomato is not a summer crop in the state of Florida, especially not these tomatoes. These tomatoes are not summer crops in Florida. And you got this right here, cucumber. That is a spring crop that grows best in spring. And you could grow this in the middle, or I'm sorry, you could grow this in the beginning of winter, and then it dies down. Then you have to plant again back in spring. And then you have this right here. This is a strawberry. It's alive right now because of where I place it in my garden. It's in a container. It's in a container. I had it at one location, and I was able to move it as the sun started to warm up, and I was able to keep it. I'm trying to see if I could keep it until next year. So this is something that you could plant in spring. Again, this is also another strawberry. You have thyme that you also plant in spring as well. And then we have our summer plants, which is Jamaican sorrel. I have green peas, which is pigeon pea, a pigeon pea right here. I got pumpkin vine right here, and those are just some summer vegetables or fruits that you could grow. Thinking of planting a vegetable such as these, this is broccoli, this is what's gonna happen. Your broccoli is gonna look like this for 2 days. It's gonna go like this for 2 days, and then it's gonna turn into this. If you try to grow kale right now, if you try to plant kale right now, it's gonna be looking like this. If you try to plant collard greens, it's gonna be looking like this as well. And if it doesn't look like this, you just look underneath it and you'll find a lot of aphids and worms and insects that's laying eggs, eating it up. This is also tomatoes that I planted too late, and this is what it looks like. This one is directly in the sun, so this is what it looks like. So right now, I just plant flowers. I have some sunflowers over there. So another thing that you need to know is summer sun or full sun versus shade and partial shade. This is a tomato plant. This is in partial shade. This is in partial shade. This is a tomato plant. This is in full sun. This is what the Florida full sun does to your crop. It burns it up. So you will hear people say, or the label will say, to plant stuff in full sun or partial shade. Don't listen to the package. You need to decide where that thing that you're trying to grow grows best. Because some things, especially, and what time of the year it is, if it's in summer or even winter, you could plant something that says full sun, in full direct sun, and it will die. It will burn and die. Because the Florida full sun is not like Arizona or even Texas full sun. It's on a different level. It scorches everything, it burns everything. So one of the things that you might want to use or look into is a shade cloth. A shade cloth is something that takes off the full brunt of the sun from your plants and vegetables and helps it to grow a little bit better in the summer or whenever you're growing it, where it don't get direct sun. I won't recommend planting anything in direct sun if it's not fruit trees like bananas, mangoes. You can plant fruit trees in direct sun, and even fruit trees, I wouldn't say to plant them in summer in direct sun. If you're gonna plant them in direct sun, you wanna plant them in spring so that they could establish the roots, so that when that Florida direct sun comes, the roots are deep enough to sustain the tree whenever you water it or whenever the rain falls. If you try to plant fruit trees in the dead of summer in the direct sun, it's also gonna die. So you need to know that as well. So I will say another thing is you need to know is, as I mentioned earlier, is what you're gonna use. I would suggest for you to start small when you first start gardening. Know what you're gonna use to garden. If you're gonna use the native soil, or you're gonna use container, grow bags, or in the ground. I will suggest to use containers or growing bags because you could always move the growing bag. The difference between a growing bag and a container is a growing bag is a fabric. It helps prevent the roots of the plants from tying into a knot, and this is a container, which the roots tend to tie in a knot when you grow in a container. And as always, there's pros and cons to containers and growing bags. Growing bags dries out very fast in Florida. As you can see, I pretty much bury my growing bags in the mulch. And the reason why I do that is because of this. You can see that right here is moist, whereas the top of the mulch is pretty dry. So it helps the growing bag to retain moisture. And one of the beauty of a growing bag is you could do this. You could pick it up, or even a container, you could pick it up and you could walk it around, walk it somewhere that is a lot cooler, where the plant that you have in that container or growing bag will bounce back from the heat and it won't die. And this is a perfect example of something that I had around there in the heat, and I had to move it because it was starting to die from the heat of the sun. The last thing that you need to know is pests. The last thing that you need to know and understand is pests and disease. Based on the time of the year that you plant, you might have pests and you might have diseases based on the time of year and the plants. But I will say in summer, it doesn't matter what plant it is going to have some type of disease and it is going to have some type of pest. Right now, as I've shown before, this is an example of pest. Little insects coming and eating my vegetables. So even though they look luscious, I can't really enjoy them because there's little eggs in them, there's holes in them, there's even disease in them. So now I'm going to cut them down and put them in the compost. And if you don't have to, if there's no pests in terms of like little insects, then you got the bigger pests such as rats and squirrels. You got rabbits, and this is some of the things that you have to deal with a bigger pest. You got the rabbits. So you're gonna look into things or do things that will reduce those rabbits. At least I have to do things. One of the things that I have to do is I got a trap to try and catch the rabbits. I come outside and I try to chase them off as much as I can. They come and they eat up your vegetables and your fruit, whatever it is that they could eat. They eat it up. So that's something that you're gonna look into. I'll say don't be dismayed. Don't be dismayed because that's a part of life. You just have, whenever you plant, you have to plant enough so that when the rabbits or the squirrels or the rats eat it, there is so much so that one or two make it past that stage where they can no longer eat it, and you have food to feed your family. But if you plant too little, they're just gonna come in, eat it, and then you're gonna be dismayed. So I say plant a lot. You can always cut it down if it's too much. But even though I said to plant a lot, don't go overboard. Do not go overboard. Because you still need to plant enough so that you can manage it. Because you don't want to plant too much to where it's overwhelming and you have to quit. Like that. Look at that. It is climbing. Look at that. It is climbing up to my butter squash plant. It just climbed my fence and jumped onto my butter squash plant. And it's gonna